Welcome to Season 2 with the Market Mystics, where we discuss and redefine markets, wealth, and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Join us on the journey while we consider new possibilities with special guests who might just challenge a few perspectives. Get ready to dive in deep with your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Market Mystics podcast. Josh, what's happening?
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day.
For our foreign listeners, that may not mean anything to you, but for our U.S. listeners, enjoy what is most likely your day off.
True. This is an interesting paradigm right now because we are recording this episode for the future, which is the Day of Remembrance. So just wrap your mind around that for a minute.
Otherwise, yeah, things are going good. It's a good time. It's been good. It's been fun. I think we have an interesting topic for today that comes directly from some of Kim's real life experience, and I just think it'll be a fun conversation.
That's true. Okay, so here's the premise of the topic. I have a little girl who is 6. She's almost 7. You've probably heard her on the podcast before because she likes to watch YouTube. And so she wanted to tell everybody to subscribe and like and all the things, which is fun. But she had a stomach bug, like really harsh stomach bug on Sunday, and has still kind of been recovering. And yesterday she was not feeling very well, just kind of nauseous and tired, and just how you don't feel good after that kind of thing. And the weather here has started getting warm enough that we have the air conditioner on, and somebody set it to a temperature that's lower than I prefer. So I was cold inside, and I was like, hey, let's go out and lay in the hammock. So we did, and I intentionally did not have her bring an iPad, and I didn't have my phone out. We were just going to lay and chill in the hammock. And one of the things that we did, because she's also a kid of the 2020s, and she's like, I'm bored. So one of the things that I did with her was I asked her to start listening and see what different sounds she could hear and pick out and focus on around us. And our next door neighbor was mowing, so it was actually quite loud and kind of hard to hear other things. However, it was real fun. At least it was fun for me because she was able to, she could hear traffic that is from a couple miles away. She could hear dogs barking. She could hear our dog breathing next to us. She could hear the leaves rustling. She could hear birds chirping. And she was really like focusing hard to really kind of hone in on those different sounds. And even at one point, I was telling Josh this morning, even with the birds, we were talking about it, and I was like, do you think you can listen and hear the difference between different birds? And so she sat and focused and really listened. And yeah, she could tell this one was like this, and this one sounds like this, and this one has this kind of pattern, and this one has this kind of pattern. It was just really fascinating to me.
Yeah, you were telling me that story, and I was like, this is what we should record on. Like, this is, that is such a great example on tuning in. Mm-hmm. Like on just focusing in. And so like, even if it's in the natural, like you have all these noises going on, but you can learn to focus on specific sounds. And I think that same thing can be used in the spirit as well. Like, if you sit down and quiet yourself, maybe you hear the mower and the birds and all these things going on. It just sounds like chaos because it's just noise. But if you just slow down, you can learn to hear the individual noises that make up the chaos. and
Mhm.
even within the individual noises, like even more subdivisions of that. And I just like you were telling me that. It's like that's so amazing because that's exactly like a skill that everyone needs to be developing is how to focus.
Mm. I was thinking it's interesting because Josh and I also do ministry. We do ministry together and with other people in our group. But one of the things that we do is we will, I mean, we have people who come to us and we help mentor them, and we will seek the Lord with them and on their
Mhm.
behalf, right? And it this story just makes me think of that. And even spiritually, there's a lot going on at once,
Mhm.
but it is kind of our method and our practice to hone in and listen and focus on this one person or this one subject or this one thing, and seek and listen for that. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Not that there aren't other things going on, because there are. And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever done any of that with us. Sometimes the Lord leads us in a different way. It's like, don't even worry about that. We're talking about this today. But it's a matter of like, can you kind of tune the other stuff into the background and then hone in on what it is you need to focus on? And I don't think it's all that dissimilar in the natural. And you know, you know this about me. I love to listen for the voice of the Lord in creation.
Mhm.
Like I love to see him or recognize him, maybe just see him revealed in creation. And one of those ways is through sound. And I mean, obviously it can be through sight, it can be through smell, it can be through all of these different things. But I kind of love that and the crossover. I hadn't even thought about it that way until you were like, let's record.
We just met with somebody recently who brought this concept from an old Catholic saint. Maybe it's actually not that old. Not entirely sure. But that the creation was the first Bible. Like it the practice of seeing God in creation was the first, like before there was ever written word. That's one of the ways that God taught you. Like, do you see the leaves? Do you see the birds? Do you see these things? And so I just think that it's like, it's so cool that we have all of these tools available to us. We
Mhm.
have the written scriptures, we have all of creation, we have all the other humans, and we can look at them and look for the life and light and love inside of them and learn like a little piece of like how God made this to function, and sort of makes me think about George Washington Carver and his like discoveries with peanuts and like all these hundreds or dozens, hundreds, thousands, I don't remember exactly what it was, uses for a peanut. And that started from an experience where he was in prayer and he asked God, like, teach me everything. And God was like, it's too big. And so he like started working his way down and he was like, teach me everything about humans. And God was like, that's too big. And so he just was like looking around, was like, okay, teach me about a peanut. And God was like, okay. And he totally revolutionized the way we use peanuts. And like that's such an amazing thing that's available to everybody. Like
Mhm.
that is available to everybody. And that's the heart of Kim and I with Market Mystics, with Upper Room Capital Development and the coaching that we do. Like that's the heart of what it is to help people find their peanut, find your piece of the puzzle. Where can you tune in? Like
Mhm.
amongst all the chaos that's going on in the world, where can you pause and just listen and say, okay, God, teach me about that bird. Teach me about that plant. Teach me about that cloud. Like,
Mhm.
and focus on it. And I think amazing things could come from that.
I agree. But I think it kind of comes from the willingness to look beyond the chaos of everything. So I would just use that as like a noun in itself, the chaos of everything, and look beyond that and to something a bit more individual, right? I even had the thought yesterday. So my daughter, Illy, she had gotten up once because she thought she saw a caterpillar and she was like, no, it's just a centipede. It's a baby centipede, which I don't even know if it was. But it got me to thinking about a centipede and all of its legs and how each one has to work together, but individually in order for the centipede to really function the way it's supposed to. And like the intricacies and thought and intentionality put into giving them all of these different legs. And so I'm like zooming way in. You ever go down those rabbit holes?
Yeah.
It's like, even in the tiniest little things that you don't even think about being in existence, there's intentionality and there's purpose. And you could learn about it. You could know about it. You could learn some very deep things by just simply learning about how that leg works on the centipede.
Yeah. Right.
But are you willing to kind of step out of that chaos of everything and focus in on something? Right. And I think also there are times when you can do that and that may not be your peanut.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it might be a step in the right direction of finding your peanut. And it may be even just a practice in tuning out that chaos of everything.
Right.
So that then when you do find your peanut, you're ready to listen, you're ready to receive, your like USB is plugged in and you're ready to download it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so fun. It really is something that is so possible. And it's something that's so easy. It just comes from being quiet. Like, can you learn to focus your antenna long enough to hear the difference in the birds chirping? Like, that's something that's really fascinating about where I live. I've been eating dinners outside in our backyard, and there's dozens of different birds. There's one in particular that I really like, and so I listen for its call. But like, there's so many different sounds and different ones, and it's like it's just this melody of things that are going on. But even within that, even just enjoying that, can you zoom in to one particular one? Like, just that practice of like stepping in and out, like focus on one, now focus on another one, now focus on another one. Like, just that practice will help you in your spiritual walk and hearing the Father.
For sure. Because you're going to start recognizing that specific call, right? You listen for those nuances, right? You focus on those birds. Yes, maybe there are 10 different ones chirping at the same time, but you focus in to hear the one and hear that song and hear that nuance and the trill that may happen. And then you start recognizing it. And then before you know it, you'll go outside and you'll hear it without even thinking about it. Because you've practiced and you've tuned yourself into it, you'll start hearing it. You told a story. I don't know if you've ever talked about this on the podcast that I think ties in really well with this, from when you're a kid and whistling.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you train yourself to hear the certain thing, you tune into it enough, it is like it immediately will grab your attention. Right.
Yeah. So when we were kids, my parents and my aunt and uncles all decided, and I don't know, maybe they heard this from somebody else, but they all decided that they were going to give each kid a whistle, um, so that if we were outside playing, like, instead of yelling for our name, they could whistle a particular melody, and we would know, oh, they want me. But what that did was we could be out in public somewhere where there's lots of noise, lots of people talking, but that distinct whistle you would hear maybe above the sound of someone just yelling your name,
Mm-hmm.
because it would just get lost in all the other voices. We had trained, like, just over time, like, of hearing that whistle, like, oh, like, that's, and it was amazing. I can't tell you how many times we were somewhere in public and one of the parents would be calling and calling and calling and no one would answer, and they would whistle, and immediately it's like your head would turn. It's like, oh, what's that? And it was fascinating and how well it worked. And, like, I just think that that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, you train to hear a specific sound from something, and
Mm-hmm.
now you recognize it everywhere. Like,
Right.
that was exactly what you were talking about.
I love it because I imagine, I don't know that this was ever an instance. I imagine like being at Disneyland or somewhere like busy, right?
Mhm.
Like busy, busy. And when we talk about the chaos of everything, those places are like chaos, right? It's organized chaos, but it's a lot of things all at once, and it is all made to grab your attention.
Mhm.
But hearing that one thing above all of that, right? Not even because
Mhm.
you're expecting it, but because you're tuned in. You
Mhm.
recognize it and it will stick out over the chaos of everything. And the parallels spiritually are incredible because, again, if you can learn to tune in and learn that melody of the Father, of the Lord, whatever you're calling him, and how he speaks to you, how he communicates to you. And it doesn't have to be a sound,
Mhm.
but it is the way in which he communicates. Then when it happens, it it drowns out all of the chaos and you are able to hone in immediately, right?
Yeah.
It triggers your focus. It goes, oh, yep, you're calling me. It's
Mm.
interesting.
So good. Mm.
Love it.
Yeah. Great conversation. I knew it would be. As soon as you told me the story about listening for the different sounds, I was like, that's what we need to talk about. Like, that's a perfect thing to give.
That's fun. I'm glad you recognized that and that I was just sharing my life. Isn't that
It's
what a podcast is about?
that's what our whole thing's about.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you for joining. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll see you on Thursday.
See ya. Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.